Hi guys, welcome to our first ever episode of I Don't Believe in Ghosts, but it's a podcast brought to you by the guys from Ghost Northeast. The idea behind it is just basically to talk about ghosts. We haven't called it paranormal because we're not going to talk about UFOs or anything like that. It is about ghosts. It'll work in three separate bits. We'll call it bits, pieces, parts, whatever you want to call them. The first part is just us talking about what's been going on, where we've been, what we've been doing, anything we've read, any photographs, any videos we've seen, anything about ghosts really across the world, not just the UK. The second bit, we're going to concentrate on a location. So episode 1, we're sitting in Borwick Hall in the library. So the second part, we'll talk about Borwick and experiences and things like that. And then the third part, this is where we need your help in the future. It's going to be the community questions part. So we need you to email us your questions at ghostspodcast@hotmail.com. Send us your questions, any clips you want us to look at, photos. If you want to come on the podcast yourself and talk about experiences, we're happy to do that. Doesn't matter where you're from, whether you're a guest, you've got a team, you've got your own team, you're just interested in it, you write books, we don't care. Anybody who's interested in ghosts is welcome. And we'll be bringing you hopefully a podcast every couple of weeks. You can get our podcast from all the usual places: Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, wherever you get your normal podcasts from. So guys, start with part 1. Never done this before. What have been up to? What has been up to the last couple of weeks?
Walking up and down stairs. This is the exciting part of setting up ghost hunts, is walking up and down thousands of stairs, backwards and forwards, putting kit out, taking guests around, bringing guests into location, and then trying to get enough oxygen to run the rest of the evening.
Where were we last week?
Littenfield. We were at the Littenfield last week, yeah.
Oldest library. Anything much to talk about there? It was quite a quiet night for the Littenfield.
It was a quiet night for the Littenfield. We had sort of come off the back of a very busy Littenfield the time before, which coincided with the victory parade when Newcastle brought the trophy home, which was fantastic. The city was alive, there was a lot of energy, and we talked about how that could have potentially manifested on the night.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And it brought a very, very active night to the Littenfield.
That was the only time I've ever experienced the doors open in the committee room.
Mm-hmm. And what's great for us as ghosts...
That's a chair, guys.
What's great for us is this time the doors didn't open for any of the three groups. Yeah. So you'll get people who'll say, well, you know, that they're on an automatic timer, or there's some sort of system that has to be setting it off. You know, we've done that building countless times now, but we just can't get to the bottom of why it does it. So I do think there's an interesting argument about the energy in a city, or when you walk into a building, you know, you just get that feeling sometimes, don't you? You walk in and you feel a particular way.
15 years of doing it, that's the only time it's ever happened to me.
Was once in 15 years.
I'm the longest server here. I've never seen it. I've never witnessed it. I've never witnessed it. I've never been there when it's happened. Obviously, I've watched your videos and come afterwards when these have shouted for us, but I've personally never been there when it's happened. But it is a theory about the energy in the town that day. For I'm a Newcastle supporter, the town was absolutely buzzing. And that night was particularly busy, wasn't it? There was a lot of activity going on, stuff down in the basement, etc. Whereas this time, it was quite quiet, but the town was quite quiet as well.
That's right.
But saying quiet, we were still getting the knocks in the basement, we're still getting the hits in the basement, we're still getting tapping, we're still getting activity around the building, KTs going off. So for us, with the experience, it was a quiet night compared to what we've seen. But we're getting hits and hits and hits and hits.
It is, you're right. I mean, I don't know if people watching and listening to it will be the same. When you've done it for so long, first few times you come, it's different. When you've done it so long, you do see it's a quiet night, but you still get the K2 going, you still get the movement ball lighting up, you get words that make sense over Frank's box. All these little things are still, when we first started doing it, you were like, whoa, wasn't it? It was like, wow. But now, because you've been doing it so long, you want more, don't you? You want Casper to come out the wall, and you know what I mean? It is a strange one. Where were we before Littenfield? Was that would be the Air Museum?
We were at the Air Museum, that's right.
Air Museum. You were on your night off.
That was my night off.
You were on your night off.
Yes. Probably at a theatre somewhere.
And I was still kind of there. A lot of big bangs.
It was a very interesting night. There was.
We made sure everybody was in place, so we knew where everybody was. So there was no talk of noises from outside. Everybody was in the location.
Because that's one of the things I think, so from behind the scenes, when we're setting up, and what guests maybe don't see is the work that goes into that. And you do have to make sure that when you go around a location, you've accounted for everything that could possibly be natural. So once you've eliminated all that, and when we're setting things up, and there's things already happening, that's when it gets exciting, when you're putting the kit out, or whether you're putting blackouts up, and you start getting activity then. So there was that at Neem. There was a lot of that happening with a few of the team, really. And then that carried on into the night time. Very active planchette. Which is always nice to see. I like when you get the hits of the psychic tools with the scientific as well. So if you're having an active planchette and the EMF's going or the K2's going as well, that's usually a sign of something pretty powerful coming through the talk, and that's what we experienced at the Air Museum a couple of weeks ago.
I've been sent a few photos, a few hundred. So I've been busy trawling through them. A lot of them, I don't know, it can be, it can't be. I'm no expert. There was one last week from the Lytton film, from the heat, from the infrared. And I'll put the picture on screen now. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the picture. If you listen to us on a podcast, basically it's the infrared camera, and it's a normal temperature, and then in the middle it goes yellow, so it's cool. It's hot, colder, I think. And it's like quite a weird. You can't see it pareidolia if your mind's going to make a face, but it's quite demon-y looking, like evilly looking.
There's a shadow there, isn't there? You can see that there's definitely something to be seen. Whether you interpret that as spirit, we always say we leave it for you to decide. But there's no doubt there is something there.
And I mean, it was only there for a matter of seconds. So something came of that temperature and then disappeared in a few seconds.
And it wasn't like an insect that you got the track. Usually that would flick across the screen.
Yeah, that'd sort of come and went, sort of. I'll put that on screen for you to look at. And if you listen on podcast, jump on YouTube and you can have a look at that there. That was quite interesting.
That's the sort of thing that we look at in the car driving home. It's like, what do you think that is? So that's like our scientific. After work from the night, and then it goes over to Steve to watch it like properly through the day and say,
well, I'm not scared.
Second thought. But it's a relatively new bit of kit that we've started using quite recently, isn't it? So we're still getting to terms with where is the best place to use it, how do we get the best interactions from it. But I think back to probably about a month ago now when we were at the Guild Hall, and we were in one of the rooms at sort of behind the, I don't know what you would call it, I think it's the Freeman of the City's room, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that was really interesting because we were getting responses on the thermal camera, but we were also then getting responses on the K2 meter, which was in a concealed cupboard.
That was really strange.
And we always talk about, the electric current and it flows, and if it was picking up electricity, it would be stable. The lights on the K2 would be constant, and this was heavily fluctuating. But we were getting interesting shadow shapes on the thermal camera as well, and that was one of the really exciting times for us with a new bit of kit. But talking about that bit of kit, I think back to Hull, Anderson Funeral Parlour. I don't want to think back to an Anderson Funeral Parlour, but that was a fascinating night, wasn't it? That was a definite, you call it a figure, but it was the shape of a figure coming into the screen, staying, and then leaving on command.
Well, that happened as well at the same time as the door opened and shut.
Yes, that's right.
Because that's what was quite stunning about it, was because the door sort of opened, this shape, whatever you want to call it, appeared on the infrared, and then it went, and the door shut. It was as if somebody walked in front of the camera and went, you've caught us, I'm going back out. It was really quite weird, wasn't it? That was, so is that probably your favourite from this year?
In terms of the activity that we got, the activity at Anderson was unlike your day-to-day hunt. I think we've been doing it long enough now. You get a lot of good activity on hunts, but then there'll be one every 6 months where it really pops.
Yeah.
And Anison, it really popped. Particularly at the start of the night in the room where there's a coffin. So for anybody that's not been, it's an old funeral parlour, and it's been done on TV. A few different people have done it, and I don't think you would know that it was a funeral parlour when you walk into it.
No, it's like a stables.
There's stables there, but it doesn't look like what I was expecting it to look like. I was expecting, the sort of chapel arrest room. So I was expecting that. So that sort of threw me when we first went. But that first room that we were in is it's like a stone corridor in some sense, isn't it? And there's a coffin in there.
That's the hayloft, wasn't it?
It was, that's right. And that was unpleasant. That was loud noises, bangs from where nobody could have been. Like you said, everyone was accounted for, and the activity that evening was special. I enjoyed that.
I screamed to be out of there. I went in the coffin. I was stupid enough to go in the coffin by myself. Mm-hmm. And when you listen to the recording, which was live, you could hear banging and shuffling, but I couldn't hear that inside the coffin. It was, and all of a sudden it was big, loud, as if somebody had kicked the side, like near me ear. And that's when I screamed for you to go and get it. Absolutely terrified. Get us out. And that's not like me. I was terrified. I just wanted to be out of there. Very dark atmosphere in that building. I felt very
closed in.
You don't know if it's your brain playing tricks because it's a funeral home. I just didn't feel it.
I don't remember a lot of that.
I remember a wobbler, didn't you?
Yeah.
So,
I think we all had a bit of a wobbler at one point that night.
I'm just hoping all these books fly off there.
I know, I'm looking around.
Sitting in the library. Does anybody start throwing the books at us?
It's a great backdrop, isn't it, for our first podcast?
Yeah. So that's basically the first part over. That's what you'd expect at the start of every podcast. Obviously, Peter and Scott and myself. Today on this recording, there may be different team members, we'll get guests in there. It's just having a chat to see what's been going on. Next part is a focus on a location. We're in Borwick Hall, so therefore, why not start here? I've got a video on YouTube so you can see with pictures, and I do a voiceover for those listening on the radio. The village of Borwick is found in Lancashire, near the border of Cumbria. The nearest town is probably Cornforth, which is a few minutes drive from Borwick. What strikes you when you drive into Borwick is the beauty of the village. It's like a picture postcard as you go over the bridge. And this village dates back over 1,000 years. It first appears in the Domesday Book. The actual building of Borwick Hall doesn't start until the 1300s. In the 14th century, the Peel Tower was built as a defence against the marauding Scots as they come across the border to fight the English. It probably would have been a wooden structure at first, later fortified in stone. It was just a place of safety for our villagers, except where they go during the wars. Later on, in the 15th century, 14th and 15th century, the Bindloss family took over Borwick Hall, and this is why you see the expansion over the next 200-300 years. When you look around the building, it's quite easy to see the centuries of expansions, because it's as if they've stuck bits of building to the actual original buildings. So you have various architecture from different eras when you look at the building. The Peel Tower is quite an interesting part of the building, not because it's the original, but there's a priest's hole that goes from the Peel Tower under the ground. It's now caved in, unfortunately, and the tunnel takes you to the ruins of the church that's found in the grounds. In the Peel Tower, one of the rooms is known as the priest room, and the boat hole is actually behind that room, so it does make sense. Opposite the priest room is an old confession box, which leads us to think that the household was Catholic. with the confection box being there. Now, stories become a bit hazy here, what the priesthood was used for. Original stories it was for the monks, because the church was a monastery and monks were in the Peel Tower. And during the dissolution of Henry VIII, it would have been attacked, it would have been destroyed, and anybody found there would have been killed. Also, you got to look at the Elizabethan era, where Catholicism wasn't allowed, basically, as Queen Elizabeth started to try and force the Protestant Church on the locals. Practice of Catholicism would lead to all sorts of punishments, even death. So did the priests use that bolt hole when the Elizabethan soldiers came knocking? We just don't know. The history isn't there. Stories are, though, that 6 priests or 6 monks were thrown in the lower floors of the Peel Tower. Those 6 priests thrown in there, they were executed. They died where they stood in the basement of the Peel Tower. Again, there's no history to prove this, so I can't really say if this definitely happened. As the centuries wore on, the Bindloss family continued with their wealth, expanding Borwick Hall estate, expanding Borwick Hall itself. The 18th and 19th century had passed through many owners who looked after the estate. However, the hall in the 20th century became ruinous, as it was just too expensive for the upkeep. It was used in World War II as a military base. Then it was sold later to Lancashire County Council, who own it today. They use it as a conference centre, outward bound centre, and other uses, including our very own ghost hunts. So, with the building with so much history, of course it's got ghost stories. There's stories of monks, priests, hooded shapes walking the corridors and walking the grounds. You would expect this with the history of the church and the priest room. But we'll concentrate on 2 or 3 of the more well-known ghost stories that I've heard over the years from Borwick. First one is of a gentleman who is very well dressed. This is dressed in period clothes, but I don't see what period is. I don't know if it's Victorian, Edwardian. The general consensus seems to be a Victorian dressed man who still walks the corridors of Borwick Hall. He's quite open. He'll stop and talk to visitors. He appears at day and at night, only to vanish when anybody goes to look to see who this man is. I haven't seen him myself, personally, but nobody knows who he is or why he's there. Whether he's one of the old wealthy owners still walking his estate, who knows? The second one, like any good hall, is of a white lady. She appears in the grounds, she appears in the hall. She's said to appear at the window of room 14, looking out over the canal in the estate. She's also seen room 14 sobbing on her knees, but when she's approached, she simply vanishes in the thin air. I'll come back to room 14 because there may be a connection to another ghost story, and that's the story of the starving girl. It's a young girl that wanders the hall, often upset, dishevelled, looking like she needs a good feast. It's said that she wanders the hall crying, and again, when she's approached, simply disappears. This could coincide into a story of room 14. The bones of a girl were found during restoration work in room 14, where the cupboard is that goes into the adjoining toilet. Is this the ghost of the same girl? Is this the same person? Could the woman found solid in room 14 be the parent of the child that's been bricked up in the wall? Now we do know from history, from even our locations we visit ourselves, like Sir Chillingham Castle, bricking people up in the wall was a known punishment back in the day. The last thing I'm going to mention, not the ghost story really as such, just a strange one. On the 3rd floor landing, there's a concrete slab, and it's etched with some fantastic writing and carvings. It said the mason who made this, his body's entombed in the concrete below on request when he died. Again, I don't know how much truth is in that, but it's well worth examining. As with all the ghost stories I tell you, I don't know if they're just tales to tell around the campfire to scare people. I don't know if they're just folklore. However, I will say with all folklore stories, there's always an element of truth somewhere in them stories. Or they're just simply just made up stories because people got nothing better to do. All I can say is, I'll let you decide. Quick guys, Borwick Hall, it's a new location to follow. We haven't been here that many times, a couple of times.
This is our third.
First thoughts, initial thoughts?
First thoughts, I think when you drive up to the building is, my goodness, this is a huge, huge place to be. So if you've never been before, it looks like an old manor house in certain parts of it, doesn't it? But it's used a lot for outward bound as well. So there's a lot of bedrooms, a lot of floors, a lot of stairs to get up and down and carry kit up and down.
Yes, my lungs will.
But there are various different places that we hunt in here, and we've chosen those locations for a reason that have some really interesting history.
It does. It's historic. The problem is it's so historic. You've got such a big time scale. It's trying to find which time scale's going to play. On the night. And that's why when you've been doing some 2 or 3 times, you still haven't covered a third of what's gone on. And that's why it gets hard. I'm sure guys who do go out hunting yourselves will appreciate the same thing. You go in these buildings, or you're talking to somebody from 500 years ago, 300 years ago, someone from last week, and you've got to try and find that balance. Do you have to be rude to them? Do you have to be nice to them? Do you have to be respectful? It's so hard to find out with buildings like this with so much history. I will say I'm not looking forward to doing the tower, the old tower. I don't like it. The last couple of times we've been there, it's been quite scary in there. But we'll see what tonight holds. And what we'll try to do, we might see if we can get a guest after the night and get them to talk about their experience.
Great,
Guys, this is the third part of the podcast. This is the community part. This is where we want you to get involved with your own questions. Email them to ghostpodcast@hotmail.com, and we'll try and answer as many as we can. If you want to be involved in the show, if you want to be on the podcast, tell your own stories, this is where we want you to get involved. As it's our first official podcast, and what we thought we would do is we'd bring a couple of guests in and ask them how Borwick Hall had been. So we're sitting here and it's
2:45 in the morning.
2:45 in the morning. We've been here since about 6 o'clock last 4 o'clock this afternoon. So there probably is a bit of delirium setting in. So I've got Ian with me. So thank you, Ian, for joining me. Happy birthday. I know we're just past, but happy birthday. Thanks for joining. We've also got Chris with me. Both guys who have been on plenty of ghost hunts with Ghost Northeast, but they've done they've done a lot of investigating, done quite a few over the years, haven't they?
Yes.
How was tonight for you? As the start of you, Chris, how do you think that?
It was a brilliant night. Been here twice now. Both completely different nights. But tonight was by far the best. Things happened and just can't explain them. It was just brilliant.
Was it personal things or group things or just a mix of both?
Personal. It was a personal thing that happened.
we're not telling you what it is. It was quite effective. We don't want to go into it so it doesn't affect future hunts. But Chris has had quite a journey tonight. So I don't know if you're ready to sleep yet.
Absolutely not.
No. But I mean, compared with other places we'll go, Borwick, one of your favourites, or is there more?
That's right.
Better
My
ones.
favourites. My favourite was Jedburgh, but I think this is now.
There's no one. Should we do the next round at the start?
Absolutely. Will I do it again? Absolutely.
I'm not doing it again. You can't do it. So Scott will lead the same.
That was a very different take on a group call for us tonight. We tried something a little bit different. Not spoil it, won't give it away too much. But some of the results that we had tonight were very, very interesting and resulted in about a third of everybody having to leave.
Yeah, that's the group pattern, which was, it's a long time since I remember we had that many people have to go out. What about yourself, Ian? Something like you had?
Yeah, it was good, really good. We had quite a lot of different sort of things happening. Obviously, the call out was pretty special in terms of what went down there, so that was pretty good. Lots of action, different things. You know, dice was good. We had a few hits on other things. We had one of the rooms. I don't want to sort of divulge too much, but something that's never happened before in all the years that I've done it before happened, and it was quite different from all of the other stuff that we've had happen before, so it was really good. So yeah, definitely firm favourite.
Definitely worth the return visit.
Definitely, yeah, second time here, so enjoyed it, really good.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, you've been on many before, so it's been a better night. I
would say, yeah, probably one of the best ones we've done. Certainly for a while, and you know, we've known them for years. We've done them. We only ever come and do them. We use a lot anyway. So, like in terms of us doing these, you know, it's class. It's been about 15 years. I think we've been doing them years. So,
it is, isn't it? Because we were talking earlier on, we're saying about quiet. We'll go, oh, it was a quiet night tonight. But then you look at like, what is a quiet night? If you get, you get a motion board move, or you get words on Frank's box.
It's just that end of the night, isn't it? Where you go, has it been a quiet night? Oh yeah, and then everybody starts reeling it out.
It's been a quiet night, but that memories might be the name of another podcast. It's been a quiet night, but so it's a firm favourite. I mean, I'm staggered at the response and the call out to this new experiment. Everyone's going to be, what is it? We're not going to tell because it is only going to be in certain places. Because I think it'll only work in certain places with a certain sort of history. But that was quite staggering. I must admit that was a start that I've never, in 15 years of doing it, I'm sure you'll see it because you've been doing that as long as I have.
Yeah, and it was a different experience for me as well.
I think it just seemed like a night of firsts, like you just said with dices. First night for us, well, for myself with the dices, asking a question, asking it to be confirmed, and using practically every single dice in a full sentence. That was just amazing. Like
I mean,
a night of firsts.
The only way logically you can say that is it's coincidence. You've rolled down dice, it's gone something, you've re-rolled them, you get the same thing. The only thing you can say is it's a coincidence.
I think it's when it's backed up on the fact that you're using the Frank's box, and we also did it with the board and stuff like that, and it's at the same time doing things like cross-referencing the tests at the same time, then backs it up and gives it more sort of kudos to it.
And you can see the chair at the end of the room there. The girl in our group had the headset on and blindfolded. We were at the other side of the room rolling the dice, and she was corroborating everything.
What I'll do is I'll just spin the camera around and just let people see. Obviously, I want to feature this on the actual location itself, but that's where we're talking the difference in spaces. So the most active areas for you, has anywhere stood out tonight?
Call out room for me.
Call out, we ended up going back in there. I went out the second time when we were in there. I ended up getting taken out on that one before the call out room, so it was pretty good. And room 14 was off the gate, and your room again. I don't know how you
Great.
Sleeping there.
The Bruce
So
story.
so that
Room
was
14, I was lucky enough to be in with your group.
That's right. We had a very
And
interesting
that was
experience
really
in there.
interesting.
Managed to verify a story that we already had some information on.
Yeah.
We confirmed that that's the spirit that we were talking to, but then actually managed to take that further and learn a bit more about that story as well, which is very nice when that sort of thing happens.
And luckily, for some, and this is where I get myself a bit excited. Luckily, I took the camera because I've been going on filming some night footage for tonight's podcast. And I was lucky because I had the camera on in that room, and I just left it in the corner of the room, and it's recorded the whole lot. And it's so many times you get this activity, you haven't got the camera, or the camera's switched off, or the batteries run out, and you go through, I didn't have the camera, I didn't have the camera, I didn't have off. But this actually was the other way, the bit of luck was when I had the camera.
I think probably our most active room was probably this one, wasn't it? With what happened here, I'm obviously not going to go into it to spoil it, but that was kind of confirmed by the group that followed us in here, because they said then they had a quiet, which would coincide with what we were actually doing. It was really quite interesting.
And that follows as well, because when we went up to room 14, we didn't get the activity that the other groups had got. So it's the energy level as well.
If everybody got exactly the same thing everywhere they went, then you start questioning, well, hold on, how is everybody getting the same thing everywhere they went? But because one group's going in and getting really good activity, next minute somebody goes in and it's absolutely quiet as a mouse.
Plug for you, that's why it's worth booking more than just one visit. You
see when you're ready, I've been on Little Phil Saturday, nothing's happened. I've been on Little Phil where I went, what on earth just happened? And the Chillingham Castle is a favourite. I've been at Chillingham Castle and seen some really don't want to see here, but I've also been at Chillingham Castle where I'm sat all night and caught cold. That's the only thing that's happened. So it's like a fish and chip, and I think it verifies a little bit when you're going somewhere and you're getting a lot, but then other people aren't, because they start to think, well, it's not so natural, it's not so normal, because everybody would get it. So it's great. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining in on our first podcast and our first community members. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks to Scott and Peter. Join on the next one. Easy to find. Look on YouTube. Look on the usual places that you get your podcasts, Apple Music and Spotify and all the rest of it. I don't believe in ghosts, but dead easy to find it. Follow on Facebook, follow on TikTok, like, follow, share, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, just underneath there. Any questions, please send them to ghostpodcast@hotmail.com. If you do want to come on a ghost hunt, these guys have either had a cracking night, jump on ghostnortheast.co.uk. Thanks for watching, guys. Join me next time, and I think we might be at Jedburgh Jail. Who knows? Thank you very much. Good night.
Please subscribe. Email at ghostspodcast@hotmail.com. Find us at ghostnortheast.co.uk.